Hello there. Welcome to Blitz Transmissions. I'm Tommy, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my all-time top 10 wish list for Star Wars The Black Series line. This is a line made by Hasbro, the 6-inch action figure scale. As you can see behind me here, I'm a very avid collector of this line. This list is going to span across all the different movies and shows of what I want most from the Black Series. Just for a preface here, all of the figures that are on this list are going to be mostly, if not entirely, new tooling. There's going to be at least some semblance of new parts to most of these, and they're all figures that have never had their character released in the line before, except for my honorable mention. This is a list for me personally, for my collection, that I feel like if the Black Series line were to end tomorrow, as long as I get these figures, I feel like my collection would be complete. So let's get right into the list. My honorable mention, obviously I had to sneak him in here somewhere. It's going to be Arc Commander Blitz. As the channel mascot, as my costume for the 501st Legion, obviously I had to pick this one. He would be just a repaint of the ARC Trooper sculpt that exists within the Black Series, and to be honest, I'd rather get it as a 4-pack release, give us all 4 of the commanders from Rancor Battalion, that being not just Blitz, but Colt, Havoc, and Hammer. I'd love to see all 4 of them just released all in a multi-pack, a 4-pack, but if I had to boil it down to one, obviously I'm just going to pick the channel mascot, Commander Blitz. So now we're going to get into the top 10 here. Coming in at number 10, this is going to be a small shout out to my good friends Justin and Nate at Out of the Basement. It is the Imperial Gunner. I love all of the Imperial Trooper and military variants that they release in the Black Series line. I collect pretty much all of them, and an Imperial Gunner would be a fine addition to the collection. He's a character that shows up in quite a few of the movies and series as of now, whether it's animated or live action. He's got a couple different variants of the costume as well that we saw in the Bad Batch. I would love to see this figure come out in the Black Series line, and I feel like for the Imperial military and Navy, it's one of the biggest holes left in the line. For my number 9 spot, I'm going to be going with BB9E. Now this may be a little bit of an oddball choice to go with, however I am a huge Battlefront 2 player. I have a whole shelf of my collection, which is hidden behind me right now, dedicated to the Star Wars Battlefront franchise, and part of that is collecting figures that are playable heroes and villains in the Battlefront franchise. BB9E is one of my favorite characters to play in Star Wars Battlefront 2 2017, and I think he'd be a really awesome figure. Again, mostly just a reuse of the existing BB-8 figure, and again, it would be super easy on Hasbro's part just to release him in just a single pack or like a Galaxy's Edge thing. I think he'd be a super easy figure for Hasbro to make, and I feel like it would help me feel like my Battlefront shelf is complete. Next up, number 8, we have Chimere, aka the Stranger. Now, unfortunately, as of the making of this video, there have been some rumors floating around that the Acolyte Season 2 is canceled. So with that being canceled, I'm going to say hashtag save the Stranger. I really hope that we get a figure of him from the Acolyte Season 1. His scenes in the show just really stole the show and really elevated my enjoyment of it, especially the fighting scenes in the 5th episode. I think that's a highlight for most people. The action was great. Manny Jacinto's performance of him was fantastic. There's so much they could do with this figure as well, from the lightsaber that separates, to the helmet that could be removed, to the cloak, the gauntlet. There's so much to this character that I would love to see in action figure form. I know Hasbro would kill it, so hopefully, even though the Season 2 is getting canceled for the show, let's hope that we get the main villain. Coming in at number 7, we've got another sequel trilogy pick. This one kind of goes along my same wants for the BB9E pick. It is Emperor Palpatine in his Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker appearance. I think these robes look super good. I love the more disheveled, almost zombie-like look that Palpatine has to him in this movie. He looks even more menacing than he did in the OT, and I really like the red accents to the robes as well. I think it really would look good as an action figure, and with how good Hasbro did on the recent Revenge of the Sith Palpatine, I think they would really do a good job with this one. So fingers crossed. You know, they haven't done a lot of sequel figures in recent years, so hopefully we'll get this character soon. Coming in at number 6, as a cloner myself, you know I had to sneak another clone trooper in on this list. It is Captain Rex, but from the Star Wars Rebels series. It would include a lot of new tooling, I think. You'd have to do an entirely new head sculpt, you'd have to do new armor bits, a new body type. Everything about this character would be new just about, aside from the blaster pistols and maybe the belt, but for the most part it's going to be a new figure. Captain Rex played a huge role in the Rebels series, and so I think he's, for me, a big hole for my shelf there too. So Rexy Boy has to be number 6 on this list. Coming in for my number 5, I have Dexter Jeter. Now, as a kid that grew up with the prequels, I am a huge fan of a lot of the more obscure characters that came from those movies. Dex is one of my favorite characters. I love that scene where Obi-Wan just goes into a Star Wars 50s diner and his friend is just the guy that's the cook. I actually have as a desk buddy his original action figure from the 2002 action figure line, and I think that Hasbro would do a great job. They always knock it out of the park with their aliens. This would be an entirely new sculpt top to bottom, and I think they would do a really, really good job, especially with engineering those 4 arms. Dexter is just a fun character. I think he'd be a lot of fun to see in the Black Series. As we get into this top 5, I'm kind of realizing how much I'm showing myself as a Clone Wars prequels fanatic, and you can clearly tell that that's my favorite part of Star Wars. So with that, my number 4 is going to be the one, the only Boss Nass. Boss Nass is one of the silliest characters from The Phantom Menace. I've loved him growing up. I love him now. My friends and I, we love quoting him just at random, and we always get a good belly laugh out of each other when we quote Boss Nass lines from that movie. He'd be, again, just a really good, sizable alien character that I know Hasbro would just knock out of the park. Come with a lot of accessories, maybe not, but I would love to see him come with the little peace orb at the end of the movie, and I think that he'd be a really cool release. Now, I will say my top 3 are some pretty heavy hitters, and these are ones that I think that most of the Black Series community will agree with for wanting in the line. Number 3 is going to be Mother Talzin. Mother Talzin, for me, played such an instrumental role in the Clone Wars show and the Night Sisters in general, and, you know, since they were introduced in the Clone Wars, all the things that they've been in, whether it's the Ahsoka series, Tales of the Empire, you know, they've played a huge role in Asajj Ventress being back in the Bad Batch, so I would argue very heavily that Mother Talzin is a crucial character that we really definitely need, and I'm going to stick her in with my Clone Wars display here if I do get her at some point. I think, again, the design on this would be really, really cool. She has those robes that kind of flow. You could get a really good mix of sculpted plastic and soft goods on this character, and again, just some really, really cool design choices with her. I would love to see Hasbro knock this one out of the park. Coming in for my number 2 here, another pick from the 2008 Clone Wars series, we have Pon Krell. Pon Krell, for me, as a kid, was probably my most loved and most hated villain simultaneously. He was a really, really cool character, and it's a shame because we never ever have gotten an action figure of him to my knowledge. I think there are custom action figures that exist of him, but I don't even recall there being a 3 3/4 inch action figure back when I was a kid. Pon Krell was a jerk on the Umbara arc of the Clone Wars, and when he turns out to be evil, it's so satisfying, but at the same time leaves such a bad taste in your mouth. His disregard for clones, and again, as I said, as a cloner myself, you know, that really hits me deep. So for me, it's just a character I'd love to see. He's huge. He would tower over so many other characters on the Clone Wars display or wherever you decide to put him, and I think that his dual double-bladed lightsabers would look awesome. And again, same with Dexter Jeter, the 4 arms would just be amazing on this guy. I would love to see Pon Krell show up in the Black Series. And for my number 1 pick, we have a character from the Clone Wars. It is actually the Clone Wars 2003 version, the one that came before, and in my opinion, the one that's better in some ways, not all. It is Durge. For me, Durge was always a favorite character of mine. I remember as a kid having the DVD of Volume 1 of the Clone Wars series, and I would just play those scenes on Munilist where Obi-Wan is fighting Durge over and over and over again. He is just such a cool villain. I know he's shown up in some of the Dr. Aphra comics in canon recently, and I'm hoping, really hoping, fingers crossed, that he shows up in the Black Series. If you would have asked me a year ago, I would have said it would never happen, but since then we've gotten characters like Darth Malak, Darth Malgus, very deep cut characters that are not necessarily relevant to current Star Wars media. So I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that we can get a Durge in the Black Series. I'd love to see him all kitted out with a bunch of different accessories like his little gauntlet shield. I'd love to see his mace that he pulls out. I'd love to see some of his darts, or, you know, his jetpack, his swoop bike. So many options for Durge, and I hope that he shows up in the Black Series one day, because again, he is one of my favorite Star Wars characters just on coolness level, and I think that he'd be an amazing action figure to introduce into the line. So that's it. That's my Black Series top 10. If you guys think it was an awful list, let me know down in the comments below. If you think it was a good list, let me know as well. Let me know what your top 10 is, or your most wanted Black Series figure for the line. We've been getting fed really well with Black Series recently. I've been extremely content with all of the releases as of the last year or so, and I have a feeling that 2025 is going to be an even bigger year than 2024. So Black Series fans, we're eating good. Hopefully a few of my characters from this list make it into the line next year. This was really interesting too, because I had to completely redo my list for this year, because I had Commando Droid, Super Battle Droid, Droideka, all those were somewhere in the top 10 or 20, and we've had so many releases in the last year or so that have just been amazing and just checked so many boxes for myself and many other collectors. So hopes and prayers we get some of these new characters on this list in the Black Series soon. But with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions, join the Blitz Brigade. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. Make sure to check out my social media, the links to which are in the description below. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.